well, aside from becoming mayor, what would be the path to, and on some level, like I think, relative to 2011, from my perspective, and granted, I may have some myopia just because of what I do every day, but that younger people have other values that seem to be rising and competing with money, in a large part because money's just not as available to the younger generation. That the opportunities that I had as, a near baby boomer or late Gen Xer were much greater from a financial standpoint than someone in their 20s today. And because of that, because it's just not an option, that other things rise in value. Is that your sense? Do you have a sense of that? Do you think?
Well, I do absolutely, think that in every respect, the people who are in their 20s now are vastly better than the generation that followed me. In other words, when I was, I can't think. Let's say when I was, say 40, and the first new real generation started coming along, I was like saying these people are horrible.
That's my generation, I think.
That's your generation. So basically, people who are now like around 50 or in their late 40s, to me, this is the worst cultural generation. Like I've always said, they write the worst books, they make the worst movies, they make the worst music, and of course, like all people,
Guilty.
I imagine the world being like finite. In other words, like here's the younger generation, and that's it. It's going to stop. So I didn't think about the people who would come along after that. And absolutely, the people who are in their 20s now, to me, in every respect, are a zillion times better. In every respect. Culturally they're better. Every single thing is better about them. What is worse about them, is not about them, but I mean, truthfully, they have really, I would not say a brilliant future ahead of them unless they make it. Because what is left to them is horrible. And it's mostly by their parents. This is what shocks me. I have no children. So, I'm shocked how their parents took everything. This present, all this sexual abuse and scandal stuff, the upside of it is there was no other way to get rid of these people. They were not, a lot of these people in other eras would not still have been in power. They would have been just too old. So, one thing it does is free up a lot of really great jobs.
I mean, I will say, in defense of my generation, I feel like we gave the opportunity for the generation after us to shine because we were so horrible.
Well, that's one way of looking at it.
I mean,
but I would also say that a lot of those people were the children of people my age or a little older. So, I always used to say, well, it must be our fault, meaning people my age. Of course, it has to be our fault. We were in power, and truthfully, for too long.
I'm not convinced, over the past couple of years, maybe, I think it has been, that I have become increasingly convinced, I should say, that the size of these generations, the size of your generation as baby boomers, the size of my generation as being smaller and and really no room for us because of just the sheer numbers. And the control that your generation had, and in our sort of consumer culture that grew up out of the post-war era, that became dictated. Like the buying power of your generation squeezed out everything for our generation, and because ours was smaller and ours is sort of skipped in terms of having that control over our culture, that the people in their 20s now are going to have more opportunities to define what our society is like. And I'm becoming more convinced that it's just a function of the size of these generations.
Well, that may be part of it. I mean, there's also such a thing as, an endless, kind of gluttony. I mean, there's nothing is enough. Nothing, not only did apparently, we, take all the drugs and all the jobs, and, we also apparently drank all the water, which is why I can never understand what happened to the water. Why is there going to be no water? We drank it. Part of it is, and it is not, by the way, that people my age were raised with the kind of, I don't know what the word is, freedom that younger people were. Not at all. I mean, with millions of rules and all that kind of. I mean, not at all. You know, I don't think it's that. You know, but yes, the size of it, I agree that certainly is a factor. You know, I am heartened by the people who are in their 20s. And I have no particular interest in young people, you know, the way that other people do. Like, what do you think they like? I don't care what they like. You know, I mean, it's not that I care about in that way. I'm not in marketing, you know. It's just that they are better. I can see that they are better, you know, but they have to do some things that are old-fashioned, by which I mean there is really, I don't care what Donald Trump says, I don't care what these Republicans said, you know, 1 million people, you know, marching into Washington has an effect. It has an effect. It does. You know, it's, I suppose, good to go to your congressman's office and all that kind of stuff. It's certainly easier. And also, on the other hand, you know, it's also cheaper not to have to go to, you know, to Washington unless you live there, you know, but it would have an effect. I absolutely believe if, you know, 500,000 people had poured into the streets in Washington, you know, when Bush v. Gore was decided, it would have had an effect. You know, if anyone else, you know, but me apparently would have said, what do you mean one person is choosing the President of the United States? Because it was one person.
Right.
You know, one person. You know, 70,000 votes or however many votes it was, you know, that Donald Trump had. It's absurd. We're hostage, you know, to these minute minorities.
Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos